Well, welcome to HPK Provident Advisors Friday Live. This is, of course, Friday, July 18th. And today you've got myself, Brian Peluso, one of the partners at HPK Provident Advisors, and Michael Kutch, another one of the partners, a portfolio manager at HPK Provident Advisors. Happy Friday to you, Brian. Mike. Yeah, it is. We love doing this. This is when we get out 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, talk a little bit about the market, some financial planning topics, just share some ideas. And along those lines, let's get a message from our sponsor, our compliance department. And just keep in mind that securities are offered through LPL Financial, which is a member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services also offered through LPL Financial. Brian and Mike, myself and Mike, are registered representatives of LPL Financial. Content discussed is for informational purposes only and not intended to offer or solicit to buy or sell any security or investment strategy. Any opinions, Mike and I's opinions today, expressed are those of us and not necessarily of LPL Financial. All investments, of course, involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Communications may include links or references to third-party websites. Those are for informational purposes and convenience only. LPL Financial and its representatives, this is great stuff, by the way, are not responsible for the accuracy or content of such sites. Hey, who doesn't? And, the fact of the matter is all of this stuff is for investor protection. And so although it seems onerous occasionally, and it seems lengthy, and to some might even say boring, it really is for a better purpose. So myself and Mike, an HPK Provident Advisors, we only transact business in states where we're properly licensed or exempt from such registrations. Please contact us directly for information in that regard. Past performance, of course, is not indicative of future results. You should consult with, this is actually very important, and it's kind of the key. Always consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, or attorney regarding any specific. So these are just kind of idea generation, and make sure that you partner with a qualified professional, whether on the financial, the legal, or the tax side, before you take any action. Mike, let's do it. What do we have this week? Of course, yes. Oftentimes what we do is we will reference things that you can find on our website. So these are social media posts that we put out during the week, and a lot of them, not all of them, end up as a blog on our website. So here's our website. If you go to resources and blog, you can find some of the content that we're talking about. So if you get bored with me or Mike, jump to the website. You can read through it, but that's where it can be found. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you. Mike always starts out with kind of a week ahead social media post. Hey, what's, kind of what information we looking to see through the financial markets. So he puts that out every Monday. So Mike, let's talk about the markets this week and what you saw and how you're feeling and what you're thinking.
Yeah, so the week ahead was highlighting the most important data was the CPI data, which is the inflation data that we all look at to see how it's going to affect the Fed going forward, whether they're going to be able to cut rates, hold rates steady, or possibly increase rates. So overall, the CPI data came in a little better than expected. Core CPI came in at 2.9% on a year-over-year basis versus consensus of 3%. While the PPI data came in lower than expected. It was actually a very benign reading on the PPI data, which is more of the wholesale inflation data. So you think that would be good going forward, but there's a caveat to it. It doesn't include imports. So it's not really getting that impact of tariffs at this point. So with the economic data that we've been seeing, retail sales just came out better than expected. The labor market remains resilient. Tariffs are going to be a factor for inflation. We saw a lot in the some of the survey data that prices were increasing. We saw that in the Fed's beige book, which did show an increase in economic activity, but that came alongside with higher input prices. So I think we're going to see a higher inflation era for a little bit. I think we're going to gravitate more toward that 3% level. So what that means is the Fed's going to remain on the sidelines unless the labor market starts to deteriorate, which could be in the coming quarters. I don't want to be too pessimistic here, but with the crackdown on
We don't want you to
immigration,
be either.
with the crackdown on immigration, we don't have the same participants in the labor force. At this point, corporations haven't really, they've definitely slowed hiring. They're not really at the point of wanting to lay off people just because they have that COVID era fear where, you know, they let go people and then weren't able to hire them back when they needed them. So I think that still resonates in people's minds. Next week we have some data coming out, but really it's going to be shifting toward earnings, and so far they've been supportive of the recent stock market rally. I'll pull up a chart of the markets. As you can see, we continue to flirt with all-time highs. I think yesterday was technically, I know, it's beautiful. What a way to go in the weekend. But unfortunately,
it's the big beautiful chart.
Yeah, it is. The one thing I don't really like on it is the RSI data, which is that first bar below the bar charts. I don't think I can highlight it, but it's in purple. What that's showing to me is what they call a negative RSI divergence. And basically what that means is the momentum is not keeping up with the new price highs. So a lot of times that shows potential weakness ahead. We're also very stretched valuation wise, trading around 22 times forward earnings. And we're about 27% off of the April lows. So I'm kind of getting more in the potential pullback camp in the coming weeks, possibly over the next month. So I'm getting a little more defensive with positioning. I'm not planning for a bear market, but we're not really too concerned about anything in the market, and that makes me concerned.
Well, it's I guess as we talk a lot about in our financial planning, it's similar with the portfolio construction. Oftentimes, not all the times, not every portfolio, but hey, you know, let's kind of plan for the worst, hope for the best, and somewhere in between is going to be an acceptable reality. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I kind of skipped over a couple of the blog posts. We had one talking about it was just kind of like a estate planning checklist. So in the unfortunate circumstance that a loved one dies, it happens to all of us. Just kind of things to look at to gather in preparation of planning on what needs to happen to take care of that loved one's assets. And then Thursday, I did one on the status of the dollar. Right now, as we all know, it's the reserve currency. We get this question a lot, whether we feel like that's at risk of losing its status. Despite the 10% decline on the year, I don't think we have to worry about that at this point. Basically, it takes a long time.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that's been talked about for decades.
Right.
Literally.
And it could happen.
Will it happen sometime in our lifetime?
Yeah.
It could.
I mean, all we've seen over the last 100 years, we have had shifts in the reserve currency, whether it's going from gold to the dollar or whatever. But basically, we need a viable alternative. Who's the next biggest economy? China. For that to happen, well, China's currency is too manipulated. No one's going to put their trust in China, in my opinion. If you look toward Europe, which is always a kind of an alternative reserve currency that comes up in conversations, the biggest economies over there are pretty export driven, so they might not necessarily want that. It's also been a pretty weak economy versus the United States. Crypto could be a viable option in the future, but it's got to be. I think all the countries need to come together to create one. I don't think anyone wants to put their full faith in something like something created that the government doesn't have control over. Like, I don't want to mention any names because we're not supposed to, but so yeah, I think the dollar is safe at this point.
I thought that was, well, a couple points on that. One, it's been talked about forever. It's not something that could happen overnight. Could it happen? Is there some a secret group of people that are out there that are on the path of making sure that or changing the dollar from the reserve currency. It could be. Don't know. But it would take a long time. It would take a long time, and it could happen. And along these lines, Mike, one of the things. Okay. Yep.
I was just going to say, and if you're truly worried about it, if it keeps you up at night, there is ways to limit that risk. You can invest in international assets. You can invest in other currencies. You can invest in commodities like gold. So there is ways to mitigate that risk if you're truly concerned about it. We do offer some of those solutions. So you can feel free to give us a call if you want to pick our brains on that to get into a more in-depth discussion.
Yeah, and that's in kind of a more general thought along those lines, whether it be interest rates, tariffs, taxes, currency reserve, and whatnot. Unfortunately, we talk to some folks that they want to have either an intellectual, a mental fight about these things. That shouldn't happen. We don't want that to happen, and this is ridiculous. And okay, it is what it is. The question isn't, can we go and change the big beautiful bill? No, we can't. It's done, right? We deal with it. We look at these things and say, okay, maybe we're not happy with the way interest rates are going, the way the price of gold, whatever you name it. That might be the case, but instead of taking our mental and physical energy and fighting it, and say, oh no, darn it, we do, that shouldn't have happened. Well, it did. Question becomes, what do we do moving forward? Because oftentimes there are a lot of different paths that will help you to stay on your path towards your financial goals. And so the way we really look at it, and Mike kind of alluded to it, the RSI, for example, shows some weakness there. Okay, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and figure out if adjustments are warranted for the client, whether the adjustments are because of what we're seeing or the adjustments are because they want to get back to a comfort level and an enjoyment of their life with their portfolio. Yeah, there are ways, there are things that can be done. So we don't really look at these things as, I was kind of laughing in my head. I said, Mike, don't be too negative, but hey, it's realistic. It is what it is. Don't have to be negative. I have to understand what's going on and figure it out if there are any changes. I'll touch a little bit on the post about what to do when a loved one passes away. Some of the things that were in that post were: first, gather documents. Second, take care of immediate needs, pay bills, keep the lights on, things. Those are the immediate steps. Philosophically, I will tell you what our guidance often is, and we feel as often is correct. Once you do those things, right? I mean, do the immediate, keep the lights on, gather whatever documents are, take care of the services, take care of grieving loved ones. The first thing to do is actually nothing. Sit down, understand what all of the pieces are, what the person that had passed away, what they have. Very few things in our world, different types of accounts and assets, and that very few of those things need to be dealt with immediately. So gather the documents, keep the lights on, take care of the services and that type of thing, and then take time to grieve, breathe, relax. These things can get done in time. So we often encourage folks, after taking care of those immediate things, do nothing. Take your time. We can get we can help a lot of folks get through those different, accounts and all those other things. We can do that in its appropriate time. So that was kind of the point there. Next week, Mike, what do we got next week? Of course, we're going to have the week ahead on Monday. We've got a couple other things that looks like we've got teed up.
Yeah, so the highlight of the week ahead will be we have a couple economic data coming out, the leading economic indicators, some housing data, durable goods orders, but the highlight's really going to be earnings. So I'm very interested in hearing some of the management commentary and how they're dealing with tariffs and that sort of thing, how it's affecting their outlook for the rest of the year. Tuesday, I have a fun one coming out. It is my top 3 favorite financial movie picks. So I won't get into the details of it, but
And I did get a sneak preview. I had a sneak preview of it, and I'm super excited about it. And I encourage everyone to look out for that one.
Thanks, Brian. And then I believe you have a post coming out Wednesday.
Yeah, I've got I've got a couple different ideas. Of course, people that know me and people that work with me, and they know I love the topic of Social Security. So I've got an endless catalog of things along those lines. Actually, was working on a couple of really interesting Social Security cases this week. So most likely on a kind of a technical basis, might be Social Security. But I'll give you a little preview on this, whether it's next week or the week after. I really want to put this together. I had Natalie, who is my daughter, the youngest. She just graduated from high school. We had her high school graduation party. And it occurred to me during that event how much hosting a party is like life itself. So I'm just going to leave that little bit of a teaser. It might be next week or the week after, but certainly on Wednesday.
We'll have a good cliffhanger.
We're going to get some Social Security material out there because, well, get some Social Security material out there and a few other things. So we're going to wrap it up. We're about 15 minutes into it. We are going to do our best to keep these succinct, interesting, informative. But don't forget, you can always go to our website, catch all of these, just about all of these posts if you want to read a little bit more. Mike, any final thoughts before we cruise into the weekend?
No, just make sure you tune in next Friday. We'll have the video out by 12:30. It's usually some more specific, usually sometime between 10 and 12:30. But honestly, whenever we get together and feel like going live.
Actually, which I always do. I enjoy this tremendously. I hope other folks do. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to submit questions or thoughts, we can't take any questions live. But we certainly will be glad to field questions and then address them on a future Friday Live. Mike, this is great stuff as always. We're going to check out for now. This is, of course, Friday, July 18th, 2025. We will be back to you next Friday on Facebook about 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll put a little preview out on Facebook ahead of time so that you know what's coming. All right, Mike, you have a great weekend. As always, appreciate your input.
Yeah, everyone have a good weekend.